Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I have some new information about the underlying plans of the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer. He's actually thinking really big, and he's pretty much set on bypassing all the Republicans in the Senate again when it comes to the infrastructure package, because he believes that the opportunity the Democrats have now using the reconciliation package, having control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, he believes that this is a twice in a century opportunity. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, everybody. Let's get into recent comments from the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer. Let's start with the headline of this article on your screen from Politico. Chuck Schumer is thinking big, and he's not very concerned about the gridlock Senate. Let's put it politely. The Senate Majority Leader said that Democrats' current opportunity comes around maybe twice a century. This is what Schumer said. Sustained and significant growth in jobs, wages, and productivity would change America. And that is what he said. He also said the sunny optimism of America would return, and the sourness that's in the land because people worry about their futures would dissipate. Now, it's very clear that Chuck Schumer needs the support of every single Democrat in the Senate, including the conservative senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. In fact, this is what Schumer said. It's going to be a challenge. Everyone's going to have different views. He said, but the good thing about the Biden administration is that they're very receptive to listening. Now, here's an interesting comment from Mark Warner, who's a Democrat from Virginia. He said, Chuck does a great job of keeping a very disparate caucus together, but we've all got different ideas. And it's very clear that the White House enjoys the working relationship with the Senate Majority Leader. Now, keep in mind that in the prior administration, there was a lot of discontent, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion between former President Trump. And by the way, make sure you watch this video all the way through to the end, because there's a very interesting picture of former President Trump's new office at Mar-a-Lago. And I think that picture is going to make you go, Let's get back to the relationship between Chuck Schumer and the White House. Here's a comment from Andrew Bates, who's a White House spokesperson. He called Chuck Schumer an extraordinary partner for President Biden. And he said Schumer is working tirelessly and capably with the full breadth of the diverse Democratic caucus on historic legislation to defeat the pandemic and turn our economy around. Bates also said that President Biden appreciates their shared values, referring to Chuck Schumer, and sees their relationship as central to restoring trust in government. Now, what's interesting is Schumer wanted electric cars legislation, and he also wanted some China legislation to be a part of the package that the White House is considering. And he said this is another comment from Schumer. There's never a guarantee. I'm going to work hard to see. And I was gratified that the Biden administration included both of them, and I think that they have broad support. So it's clearly a very interesting give and take relationship. It's kind of like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours when it comes to the White House and Chuck Schumer. Quite different from the previous relationship between former President Trump and the then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. I think that was quite a comedy show. In fact, I believe the prior relationship between former President Trump and the then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was a classical example of the DC comedy hour. Now, as all the new legislation is being worked on, Schumer is clearly focused on the future and on the midterms. Here's another comment from Chuck Schumer. We're going to keep working all the way up to the day of the midterms. We've got a lot of work to do. Let me know what you think about these plans from Chuck Schumer. He's clearly trying to keep the Democrats in the Senate together. He's trying to keep them united so that the Democrats can pass whatever legislation the Democrats pass in the House. He wants to make sure that they pass it in the Senate as well, because he knows that the president is going to sign it. And again, he believes that this is a very rare opportunity that comes along twice a century. Let me know what you think of all this maneuvering, if you will, from Chuck Schumer to further advance the Democrats' vision for America. So those were some interesting comments from the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Folks, my personal opinion is that the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer should work closely with the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, although I think that's going to be quite a challenge. And the reason I say that is because the two sides are very far apart. But the country advances when the country can take advantage of the best ideas from the Democrats as well as the Republicans. It should never be a case of it's my way or the highway, because all of the Democrats' proposals don't make sense. Similarly, all of the Republicans' proposals don't make sense. The best way forward, the best path forward for the economic prosperity of America, for the average American to live the American dream is to take the best ideas from the Democrats as well as the Republicans. For me, it's not about being red or blue, it's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, I'm American first, which is why I believe it is important for the Senate Majority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell right here, Chuck Schumer right here, to try and work together so that the country can move forward with the Democrats and the Republicans coming together with their best ideas. They will never be fully united because they're so far apart politically, philosophically, and economically, but they need to come together at this historic time for the good of the country. Speaking of coming together, a very interesting individual, former President Trump, is now, as you know, no longer in the Oval Office. So he has set up a new office at Mar-a-Lago. Here's an interesting article from Politico, a photo of Trump's new office, what it reveals about how he wants to be remembered. And in the words of Politico, an obsessive inch-by-inch Politico breakdown of the 45th president's new digs at Mar-a-Lago. Now, this was a picture that was actually tweeted out by Stephen Miller on one of his social media profiles. Let's take a look at a breakdown of this picture, and this is from the Politico article. You'll get a link to the article in the description section below. So let's take a look at former President Trump's new office at Mar-a-Lago. So you can see there's a picture of Air Force One, there's a statue of former President Trump, there's a rack of challenge coins, there's a wooden box. I believe that former President Trump had a button in the Oval Office where as soon as he pushed the button, a butler showed up with a can of Diet Coke. Yep, that is actual reporting. So I wouldn't be surprised if that box has a button or something like that inside it. And there's a black Sharpie because former President Trump is known to scribble with a black Sharpie. There's a newspaper. There's a plaque commemorating the border wall, which was a very important unfinished project for former President Trump. There's a Coca-Cola right there that I can see. I think a very astute observation is some Coca-Cola there apparently. There's an iPhone and some reading glasses. There's a picture of Mount Rushmore. And so a pretty interesting overall look, a quick look, if you will, at former President Trump's new office at Mar-a-Lago. And finally, let's hear from one of President Biden's spokespersons from the administration, someone who's been pushing, who's been selling, promoting the American jobs plan with the American people on television networks all over the country, the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. This is what he said of the president's $2.2 trillion infrastructure plan. There's a lot of evidence that the American people support this plan, even more when they hear how the president proposes to pay for it, because we're talking about corporate tax reform. He's basically saying people want corporations to pay more taxes, and that's increasing support for the infrastructure plan. Interesting. Let's roll the tape and hear from the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg. Let's watch.
My question there is, okay, how would you pay for them? What do you think is the right way to pay for these things? Because you can't get something for nothing, and we've got to get it done. And remember, there's a lot of evidence that the American people support this plan even more when they hear how the president proposes to pay for it, because we're talking about corporate tax reform, where so many corporations, as you showed earlier this hour, are paying zero. And by the way, we're talking about a level, 28%. We're talking about a level that's lower than corporate taxes have been for most of my lifetime.
So that was it, folks. Let me know what you think of this twice in a century opportunity as far as the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, is concerned. Let me know what you think of the Transportation Secretary's comments and an interesting look at former President Trump's new office at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I want you to know I appreciate you. Please do me a favor. Please click the like button. Please subscribe and enable notifications. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Don't forget, this channel is about the country, the economy, as well as your money. I bring you the truth so you don't have to go to different news sources. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.